All right, welcome to episode 4 of The Road, our video and audio podcast about the road to WrestleMania, bringing back someone who was the guest on week 1, Scott Edwards. What's going on, man?
Not much. Busy night last night
Oh my
with
God.
wrestling.
Oh,
Lots of wrestling. I know you were at the show, so
I'm recovering. I'm definitely recovering from Battle in the Valley. We will talk a little bit Battle in the Valley at the end of this show because I cannot discuss wrestling without talking about some of the stuff that happened on that show with Scott. But before we even get into that, what happened to your boy Jason Tatum in the 3-point shootout last night? What's going on, man?
it's funny. Someone's like, here he goes, and I was like, I don't have a great feeling about this. This is like he's a really good in-game 3-point shooter.
That's kind of what Draymond was explaining last night. He's like, left wing, it's amazing, off the dribble, and this is more of like a standstill shooting contest. But he actually got his own Air Jordan shoe as well. I saw that is debuting like really soon. The Tatum one.
Pretty cool.
All right, we're not here to talk about the All-Star game or the slam dunk contest or Mac McClung becoming, I think, the second white guy ever to win the slam dunk contest. I think Brent Barry won it one year. I'm trying to think if there's any other Caucasian gentleman to win the slam dunk contest. But we are talking about wrestling here. If you've been living under a rock, maybe you don't know what happened at Elimination Chamber, which is probably not this audience. So we are going to talk about everything that happened at the Elimination Chamber. And I mean, we got to start at the top, right? It's the everything. Everyone's talking about two things in wrestling today. One is what happened at Sami and Roman, and the other thing is Mercedes Moné. We'll save the Mercedes chat for a little bit later. But man, when it happened, when Sami took the pin, what was your feeling?
I was upset, not because I didn't think he wasn't gonna. I never thought he was gonna win, right? Because it seems like the Cody plan has been the plan all along. But I think I was upset because I wasn't as much of a fan of the execution as I wanted to be.
Right.
Because to me, there were ways to make it work perfectly, or not perfectly. Perfectly would be him winning, obviously. That was never going to happen. So to me, it was going to be like, okay, is Jay going to turn on Sami? Or is, he just going to get destroyed by all the bloodline? I never thought they would go the route that they did, which is, leaving me beyond confused. And maybe that's how you book television the rest of the way there, obviously. But I don't know. I was upset.
So I think if someone had asked me what I would have wanted to see happen, I think I would have wanted to see Sami win. Would I've wanted Sami to win the belt? I am unsure. I'm not sure. Because I wouldn't have wanted them to take away whatever Cody is supposed to achieve at WrestleMania. But, this is one of the things when you have, two hot programs going, all of a sudden this Sami thing comes out of nowhere. As we've discussed on this show, it was never meant to get this hot. No. And so if you're Triple H, this is your first time really having the reins of everything, and you're heading into this giant WrestleMania. The Rock thing didn't happen. The Austin thing didn't happen, but yet the product is as hot as it's been in a very long time. A lot of it has to do with the bloodline. I know Dave Meltzer says that it should be credit to Sami. I think it's definitely some of it should be credit to Sami, but it's what is Sami facing that makes this important. And I think he might be discrediting Roman a tiny bit. And that's not me digging at Dave at all. I understand exactly where he's coming from. He's looking at numbers and he's looking at, okay, here's the numbers when Roman was without Sami, and here's the numbers when Roman is with Sami. So if you take that average, then that should be credited to Sami. I get what he's saying. And at the end of the day, if you're Triple H, do you, for your big WrestleMania creative moment, who knows what's going to happen after they're sold? This may be his only opportunity to do this. He had a decision to make, and it was, do we go with Cody after not being able to get Rock? Do we cement our feet with Cody? Or do we do this thing here that is going to be great in the short term, but we don't even have a plan built out for this like we have a plan built out for Cody? So I sort of understand Triple H's predicament in this whole thing. And, do you sort of change the plans based off of the current hotness of the thing? Or does he think, well, I think I could get Cody here and maybe we could still get Sammy, here at some point again. And it's got to be hard. I know a lot of people say just belt Sammy, figure it out. He's hot. You got to run with it. I get that side of folks too. Again, I would have liked to see him win, but they didn't do that. But what did you think about the way that Jimmy Uso was involved and he came in and Sammy was able to fight him off? And then Jay comes in and Jay sort of sticks up for Sammy. He stands in between the chair shot, and then Roman goes, well, then you do it. And he wouldn't do it. And then Roman's pie facing the poor guy. And then Sammy goes to spear Roman. That's the only part of this I didn't really like because it makes it kind of goofy, like kind of dumb. And then he spears Jay and then he loses the match. What did you think about the Jay piece? Because to me, I think this Jay piece is still critical in where Sammy goes from here.
That's exactly how I feel, is that the Jey Uso aspect of this, to me, was always going to decide the match. I kind of hinted at it earlier when I was talking. It was that I didn't love where they went with it because it almost felt like, or it left me thinking, okay, then what? Because there was this part of me that was like, okay, sure, Jay can stand up for Sammy, but if that happens, I almost feel like Sammy needs to win at that point because it's like that would be the ultimate blow off. Instead, Jay doesn't necessarily fully stand up for Sammy. He gets speared, so it's going to cause a little rift there, I'm sure, because he got speared in the end. And then, it leads to the chair shots and the spear and it's over. And like, to me, that was as lukewarm of a finish as you could have had because it's like, oh, it's just over. All right. I'm still like the Jey Uso stuff to me, the most interesting part of the story right now.
Yeah.
Because now that Sammy's, he's not getting another title shot. That's done. At least for
in the immediate
season.
Future.
Yeah. So how do we get to that, tag team title match? How is that going to make sense? Right? Because if Jay wasn't going to do it then, is a spear that clearly wasn't meant for Jey Uso going to turn that?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But if it comes down to, well, I have to choose my brother over you, Sammy, then maybe it'll work. But it didn't hit for me. I preferred either Jey Uso just realigning and beating up Sammy to become a bigger heel, right? Because that would have sent people going crazy if Jay kicked him and cost him the match. Or he helped Sammy win, which
we have a couple comments that I'm gonna show up here, and we can mention them here in a second. But here's my question, because you follow a lot of different styles of wrestling. You're not only watching WWE, you're watching AW, you're watching Japanese promotions, and what I wonder about battle plan and game plan, and I don't know. I've asked Tony Khan, like, do you ever have a plan B? And Tony Khan, and this is during the pandemic, so I don't know if that has changed. But when I asked him that, he said no, he trusts his instincts to move if something happens and he needs to. So what I'm wondering, and I wish I could figure out what this answer was, but so I'll just bring it up with you, is Triple H, I would think, has 3 plans that he's kind of, whether it's on paper or on his iPhone or whatever. 1, here's our Cody plan.
Yeah.
2, could we theoretically have Sammy win the title? And then what do we do there? And then 3, could we force Sammy into a 3-way? Like, I think all of those have their pluses and minuses, and I dislike the 3-way one the most because it just feels like a fallback that they always go to, and it's never as good as what I want the original match to be. But I do wonder if in his mind he's like, okay, I understand there are really 3 options. We're going with this one. But did last night change his mind in any way of like saying, oh, maybe we have to change directions? And if he had created the possibility of that happening. Like he's got these 3 battle plans, and if this happened in his mind, we can veer this way. Or did he only have one, which is Cody Roman, and then sort of like what Tony Khan said, then you trust your instincts if you have it. Like I'm just historically, I just wonder about stuff like that.
I think it probably comes down to the instincts. Maybe he has a plan A and a plan B, if that makes sense. I don't know if he has that triple threat option, because to me, with 2 nights of WrestleMania, maybe the best way to avoid the triple threat is that if Sammy were to get into that picture, you could always do the tag titles on night 1.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is going to happen, but maybe him winning that match gets him another title shot, say the next day or on Raw, right? Raw and Mania. Like that would be the only way I could see it, because I'm with you. I don't ever prefer a triple threat, right? Like I think Roman and Cody would sell tickets no matter what. And it's WrestleMania, so WrestleMania sells tickets by itself.
Yeah.
But I think instincts, definitely. I think it's more of a plan A, plan B if something happens. But I also know that they could just be like, well, it was a hometown reaction. Like that's why the reaction was like it was.
Sure. Yeah. They could give themselves a reason as to why that happened.
It might be about what happens on Raw or SmackDown that maybe, my instinct should take me this way.
Right. So here's now we're Monday morning quarterbacking this thing. That's just what this stuff is.
Yeah.
But when I was watching that last night, so I'll lay this out for you. So I'm at the San Jose Civic Auditorium watching New Japan's Battle in the Valley. They have a technical difficulty. Now this building was built in the 30s. Right?
Yeah.
It's a tiny building, 2,500 people. I'm sure historically there's been, for wrestling, I'm sure, Roy Shire ran it and here and there, whatever. Lucha Libre, I'm sure, has been in there a lot. But to me, I'm like, this building is old. We need to move out of this place because this is not like this. Like there's a charm to it, but it doesn't look big league to me. So then there's the technical difficulties, and I'm like, we are in the Silicon Valley. Like, what is going on here? Like, how can Dave and I talked to Rocky Romero, and it was about the TV Asahi, and we're bringing those people, and they're going to do the production, and it's just like, okay, we need to get out of this building. So I was so frustrated because the show started 45 minutes late, and it was already going to be a long show, and it's hot in there. Like I said, it's not a great building to have, giant events. And so I was like, you know what? Screw this. I am going to just wait in this long New Japan merch line, which was literally a half an hour wait. And I'm going to watch this match because New Japan already pissed me off. I'm going to miss the opener just to watch this Roman and Sammy match. Yeah. And as I'm watching it, I thought, man, I really wish the road for Sammy would have been hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, with the final hurdle being you got to beat me in Montreal in a non-title match, and then you get your title match, because then you could do that on SmackDown.
Sure.
And you blow that rating through the roof on Sammy's attempt to win. Now it's a little predictable because you're, as a fan, you're like, oh, he's going to win in Montreal, and then he's going to lose when he gets his actual title shot. But I thought, just in hindsight, I thought, wow, that might have been the way to go to get fans that moment with Sammy last night. And then you don't really interrupt what your plans were anyway. But they would have had to have thought about that, months and months back to do it. And again, Monday morning quarterbacking, it's just, it's not, we can't change the past. So that was what I thought. And I think most people were deflated. I know Brian and Dave talked about it, and Brian was like really deflated. He was way more deflated than I even thought he would be based off of this story. Okay, but so let's talk about some of the comments that are in here. So Richard says, if Owens and Zayn versus Usos main events night 1, does that alleviate some of the heartburn today? I don't know if wrestling fans really look at that the same way, because I think that I think it's all about sort of the build to that, right? Is the
Yeah.
build to that important enough
Right.
to main event night one? And if it is, I think the fans will be happy. But if it feels forced as like an apology for something that they did, I think the fans will turn on it. Not turn on it because it's a WrestleMania crowd. They're not going to turn on it. But I think the hardcore fans will feel like it's just kind of a slap in the face. But I don't even know if it should, because there's a Charlotte and Rhea match that they may want to showcase. But again, not that they have to do the men's championship and the women's championship in main events. It should be what the bigger matches are. So if that is the bigger match, then maybe that should be. But what do you think about that?
I will start by saying this is the first year of the 2-night WrestleManias where it does feel like night one's main events open to talk about. Because last year was like, okay, well, if Austin's wrestling, that's the main event.
Yeah.
And the year before that was Sasha and Bianca, which made sense. I think there was open about that. Will it be Drew and Bobby, or will it be that? But I always thought that one should be it. To go with that, will it alleviate? I think you're right. It's all about the story now from here to there. Is it worth that main event spot? Because to me, just putting a match there, it doesn't feel the same. It'd be like if you know how CM Punk always used to talk about main eventing WrestleMania. If it didn't have the story, would that have felt as great?
Yeah.
And that's the case. Or like with the women's triple threat main event, for example. Everyone thought Kofi and Daniel Bryan should have been doing that because that had the story for it. But it didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm with you there.
All right. So Matthew, who I always like his comments. I think he's really thoughtful in what he's talking about. He says, what you're describing is how the first Wrestle Kingdom was booked, which is where WWE got the idea for Double WrestleMania. Yeah. Does having Roman wrestle twice on both shows take away the specialness of Roman, which is how I would look at that. Yeah. He's not, he has a certain style, they have a certain build. I personally thought, you could do Roman and Sammy on one day and then Roman and Cody on the other day. But then there's a built-in excuse for the champ to be like, oh, I lost to Cody because I was worn out from the night before. And maybe that's not the greatest booking. But yeah, this it's just so funny because there's so many things that people think about. And then Larry says once Cody tore that pec, his road to WrestleMania was straight out of Triple H's playbook, because Triple H did the same thing, which is right on the money when Triple H got hurt, and then he shows up on Royal Rumble jacked as more than I thought was humanly possible, and that was his road. Even though that match with Jericho was the best match, but that thing got overshadowed like hell from Rock and Hogan.
I will say, I think this is interesting. Based off of all the stories we've heard, I feel like the only thing that has always been set in stone is Cody Rhodes getting the world title, right? Because when those first rumors were coming out of, oh yeah, they'll make a new world title for night one, and then Roman will face The Rock on night two, and Cody will be in that first one. Unless, Rock's not available, then Cody will be in that second one. So it feels like that's the only story that's been a guarantee.
Now that I think about it, Triple H has had to go through probably like 7 or 8 plans by now.
Oh, he sure has. I'm sure he's been moving it. And I know some people don't love Cody. I do love Cody. I think he's great. He has done incredible work since he's walked back in the door to make himself feel like the main event. So it's like, I understand the Sammy story, but at the same time, Cody's getting the same reaction, maybe not in Montreal, but he's getting the same reaction. Like that segment on Raw, I thought that was the Cody segment, featuring Sami Zayn rather than the other way around.
Here's a question, because my worry with Cody is that because he panders so hard, at some point that's going to be his downfall, and the crowd could possibly turn on him. Now, I imagine that's also something he's actively thinking about, right? Because he wants to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
Who, like, the WWE fan base, if you gave them the idea of Cody or Sammy, I just wonder which one they would get tired of first. Now, maybe Sammy is not a long-term guy, and I think Cody is going to be a long-term guy.
Sure.
But I kind of wonder, like, who would have more legs before the fans kind of were like, I'm kind of tired of this. Because that's the hardest part about being a babyface in WWE today.
Yeah. I think Cody's benefited from being gone, right? Like him being gone as long as he was with the injury and coming back, that has made him a bigger star for it because he had that match with the injury and he went out there, he put on a show, of course, with Seth Rollins, and then he's gone. And now he comes back, wins the Royal Rumble, big reaction, has had killer promo after killer promo. I think with Sammy, this is one of those spur of the moment type things, right? It starts to lose steam after a while. I don't know if you remember this perfectly, and obviously it didn't last long, but Daniel Bryan's run, once he won the titles, it was like, oh, okay. It's the matter of the chase. And that's
Well,
what
and
Sammy
then they
has.
put him with Kane.
Kane. Yeah, that's not his fault. That's just the thing that they do. But
Yeah.
I think Sammy's more of the chase guy, while I think Cody does fit more of the chase plus champion
That's
side.
interesting. That's very interesting. And, we have what, a month and a half before we get to WrestleMania. I just hope that the Cody stuff is really smart.
Yeah.
I think you can lean into the Dusty stuff to an extent. But if you go too much over with the Dusty stuff, I think that could be a problem.
Sure.
But yeah, I just want it to be smart. I want them to ask, let's bring in Austin. Let's bring in some of the best baby faces they've ever had and go, hey, we just want to make sure that we're on the right track here. What would you do? Like, let's just make sure that this Cody thing is perfect as it can be.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job. I don't think he's had a bad segment yet. So
we haven't seen a tear yet, right?
We got pretty close. He was really close in that one.
Yeah. All right. So I'm sure, this is still going to be the talk of the town. I'm sure on Monday we will see if Sammy losing has any effect on that rating. I don't know. I don't even know what to think. I can't gauge how the mainstream was following the Sammy piece of this. But I'm sure they have their ideas. I just hope the ideas are good and that we get some good stuff coming from Sammy. Like I was talking to somebody. Actually, I was talking in our Discord. And by the way, if you want to be a part of the Discord, hit me up, GG at Fight Game Media on email, and I'll send you an invite. But I was saying how, Sammy, I'm sure like there was just he's on the biggest stage. This is the biggest match of his career. I don't think he could have done a more perfect job in what he did, what his role was last night.
I agree.
And he knew he was losing this match since before, since the day it was booked, right? Like he knew what the end game was going to be. And so to go out there, be in front of your home crowd. I didn't see it. I didn't see a boo-boo face in sight. I didn't see him leading us in any way with his emotions to what the finish was going to be. I thought his wife was awesome. I thought everything he did was perfect. And if I'm WWE, I go, okay, this guy, he can main event for us. Like he can absolutely 100% be a main eventer. I think KO is in that same role where they saw the same thing from him. And so it may not be now. And a lot of people have been saying, look, they're never going to get this moment back again. And they're right. But I think Sammy is bona fide now. I think he is a made man. He has created opportunity in his career just on this run.
Yeah.
And, maybe deep down, he's like, I wish I could be that guy. But his career is up and to the right now, or actually on let's see, up and to the right. There we go. Like he's he's a bigger star today than he's ever been, and that's what he gets out of this.
Yeah, my best way to say it, I don't think he's ever facing Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania again.
Yeah.
Like I think he's gonna have those feature matches moving forward, whether it be, just wrestling in a regular singles match, kind of like we see with Seth Rollins every year at this point,
Yeah.
right? Because Seth Rollins isn't always in title matches, but he's always in a premier match. Kevin Owens, like you said, Kevin Owens has been in that role. He's been fighting, Seth 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, and then Austin last year, obviously. I think Sammy has that ability to go whichever way you want, but now at least you have a bona fide star, like you said. And I think that's just, it's not as, yes, the title win feels like that ultimate sign of like you made it, but at the same time, I think Sammy still feels like he made it in that respect, win or lose last night.
All right, we have the men's elimination chamber match, and Larry, who's in the comments and who's watching,
forgot we had the rest of the show.
he was telling me in the Discord that he really likes these chamber matches every year. They happen once a year, and he's always excited about them. And my feeling is that in both scenarios of these matches, there were things that I didn't like. And in this one, what I didn't like is the fact that the champion has to defend this chamber. I always feel that that's like that's no logical sense is that a champion has to defend in a match like this.
Sure.
Now, having said all of that, I think even if I don't really care about Austin Theory and this title, and I think it's a little weird if he's facing Cena and this title is still on his shoulder. I just think that's a little weird. They did such a fantastic job of making us care about Montez Ford as a single, making us see Bronson Reed as an absolute monster. I think they could have done a little bit more with Damian Priest, but somebody sort of had to lose, and then they set up the Logan Paul and Seth match. Montez Ford got the big spot where he did the upside down thing and onto everyone, which is ridiculous and crazy. Gargano was in there to just, make sure we had some underdog babyface stuff too. So the whole way that they put this match together, I thought was really, really good. Even if going into it, I didn't really care about it that much, but man, what a showcase, I thought.
My only nitpick is that I feel like Montez Ford should have been in the match longer. Not, number 6 entry, but number 1, 2, or 3, just to get him time to show even more. Because obviously that was the main goal of the match, or at least that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
Besides the actual championship, like he was the bona fide star. The crowd loved him, and the crowd loving him was like one of those like, okay, so what everyone's saying on Twitter of wanting Montez Ford to get that spot, that's real. Right? Like a few weeks ago when everyone's like, well, are people going to turn on Sammy or Cody because of Sammy? And then that didn't happen, obviously. It's like one of those moments, like, let's see the temperature.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see Montez Ford succeed. And he was awesome in every minute he got. It took, the curb stomp on the outside for him to lose. And we're at a point now where you have to let him go. I know people like Street Profits. I like it. I like Angelo Dawkins. I think he's really improved, especially over the past year or two.
Yeah.
But Montez Ford is that guy to make the next step.
I think so too.
He's a bona fide star. He's got the charisma. He's got more charisma than most of the stars now. And that's not a shot at anyone. He's just that talented. And I also, my last takeaway from this is WWE has 3 guys, 3 baby faces that are so incredibly over. It's almost like they didn't know what to do with it all at the same time, because Seth Rollins, this guy has been unbelievable for months now. And like they sang his song, it felt like the whole match.
Yeah, totally. And he's such a weird baby face too. It's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't even know he was a baby face until like a few weeks ago.
Here's you're a sports guy, so I can talk about this stuff with you. Bill Simmons, someone who you are very fond of, has this theory that on an NBA team, you can't have too many good players because you need bench players who understand their role. And that's kind of what, when people pop, when you're not ready for them to pop, you don't have necessarily a plan for where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another part of what I imagine makes Triple H's and Tony Khan's job, pretty hard. Is like, oh, I'm like so focused, tunnel vision on where things are going, and then this person is getting over more than I thought that they would. So now, how do I change this, and how do I adjust? And that's got to be really hard to do.
Yeah, it's a good plan. I mean, I think they gave Seth the best possible option at WrestleMania if he wasn't getting a title match. Truthfully, like people might hear me saying Logan Paul is the best possible option, but this guy's a mega heel. Like people hate Logan Paul here in the States. They hate him, right? That's why his world title match wasn't here, because they wanted him to be the babyface against Roman Reigns. Now he can be that heel, and Seth hopefully gets a win for once. That's the one thing Seth doesn't do a lot. It's win.
Yeah. And I keep bringing up the Discord, but it's because I'm having like really focused and thoughtful conversations about this stuff. But I was telling Larry in the chat that I didn't want Ford to be the surprise winner. I want his path to sort of be built so that we naturally want him to win when he does win. But that's just my thought on it. Like he could have won here, and it would have been really cool. It would have been a great moment. But I do want to see them have a plan with him, because, like you said, he's got everything, and he just needs that chance.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it, because I think there's been a little bit of a wanting for that to happen now for a good 2 years, and it does feel ripe, and I do want to see that happen.
Yeah, I just look at this graphic. He looks like the star of the graphic.
Yeah.
Even.
All right. So Austin Theory wins the match after Logan Paul does his buckshot lariat on Seth, and yeah, Logan Paul's knee must be in great shape, because every time he does that move, I think he's gonna like fall on his ass, and he holds his balance.
Well, he tore it. Tore his meniscus and everything. Remember?
No, I know, that's what I mean. Like because he it hasn't been that long since he got hurt. But when he does that move, I'm just like, he goes so fast. I'm like, how does he not just rip his knee out? But then, all right. So I will say that I am probably a little hard on the Grit couple. I think the Grit couple is corny as all hell. I think Edge talking about grit is like really old man, get off my lawn kind of stuff. And so it kind of bothers me. But I thought what they did in this match was 100% what they should have done. They used FTR's move, the Shatter Machine there. Obviously, Edge is friends with those guys. Those guys put it over. And I don't think Rhea was hurt in any way. She's got her path. I don't know what this means for Finn necessarily. I don't know if you can go back to Edge and Finn. Somebody I was talking to, God, maybe it was Jeremy Feinstone, and we were talking about maybe you go Edge and Damian Priest. I'm not sure exactly. I think the feud is probably, the Demon versus, the what is Edge's old group?
The Brood.
The Brood, yeah, Brood Edge versus the Demon. I think we've talked about that on this show. Maybe. So whatever it is, I was like, you know what? I'm hard on these guys. I'm hard on Old Man Edge and his speeches. But what they did was really, really good stuff, especially for a show like this, where you probably get a few more casual eyeballs than your normal B show. And they go, oh, I remember Beth Phoenix. Oh, I remember Edge. And oh, who's this Rhea Ripley lady here? She's really cool. So I like that. What did you think?
Rhea Ripley won as the biggest star in the match. That's like the first thing I felt. I was like, in a match with Edge, Beth Phoenix, she felt like the big star, and I think that's obviously the right thing to do, seeing that she's the one in the big WrestleMania match. I don't like anything about Judgment Day other than Rhea Ripley. So when I see their matches coming up, especially when they're with Edge, I'm like, okay, here we go. But this exceeded my expectations. I didn't have high expectations going into it. Like you said, checked all the boxes. I thought Beth looked good in ring wise. And I don't know what's next for Edge. Finn Balor's kind of a nerd now. Like, he's just there to lose.
I guess.
I've always felt like I don't his one he beat Edge, right, in that no I Quit match or whatever it's called. Was it
Yeah.
an I Quit match? Yeah. But I don't remember any big wins for Finn Balor since joining Judgment Day. I remember a lot of losses.
Yeah.
I like even when Dominic turned, they lost. Like Finn lost. I remember that vividly. Um, so it's kind of weird that he's like the main guy of the men when he's protected the least.
Yep.
Uh, you know, it almost felt like you're supposed to be going towards Edge and Dominic, but I'm pretty sure they're going Ray and Dominic.
Yep.
So I have no idea what Edge is supposed to do next.
Yeah, I don't know either. And you know, it's not. I don't think it's super important to this show that Edge gets some great moment, but you know, we are getting to the end, right? We're getting
Right.
to the end of this for him, and I think he realizes that he's still got the acting stuff, and it's just crazy because you know when he made that return, was that 2 years ago when he came back?
3 now. It's
3 years
2020.
ago when he came
Yeah.
back. I just thought, wow, you know, what a way this guy's going to be able to write the ending of his career. And then ever since he came back, I was like, I kind of liked it better when he was gone. I felt better about his career
Yeah.
when from the way that he ended it
Yeah.
versus now. Even though he's working really hard, he's in great shape. I don't know. I think his character has just passed me by a little bit, which is kind of weird because I'm closer to his age than most of the talent on these rosters. I just don't like to get off my lawn, old man stuff too much. All right, here's another note from Richard. He wonders if Becky earned her way into a possible WrestleMania match. Becky, Lita. I don't know. I don't. Where would she fit if they did that? Could it be like a Raquel match? But they're both baby faces. I don't know where she would fit in the current without Edge in sort of the current landscape of WrestleMania.
I mean, if you want to give like Becky or Bailey just a big match just because she's Beth Phoenix, right? That's a possibility. Because those two are like the only two off the top of my head on the women's division side that don't have a big match. Yeah, I guess they'll probably be with each other. I don't really know because it would have been a Rhea singles match, right? That would have
Yeah.
been the obvious choice, but that's not happening. I don't know. Maybe she just wanted to do this team with Edge and call it a day, but it doesn't. I feel like if that were the case, she'd get a proper send off too.
Yeah.
So maybe if she's the one to team with Becky and Lita against Damage Control, I guess that's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah, like if they don't
Instead
get
of Trish.
Trish,
Yeah.
if Trish, what was the story? Dave wrote something about how they were going to bring Trish in, but they changed plans at the last minute and they didn't bring her in. So I wonder what's going on with that.
I know Dakota Kai was hurt.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that could be it. Maybe they just pushed it to Mania.
That's what it was. All right, let's get to the other matches here. I don't have my. Oh, I guess we can just use this. My Brock versus Bobby
That
placard
works.
here. I mean, what this felt to me like 1, 2, 3, not it. I want to lose this match if I have to face Bray Wyatt next, and Brock just won that battle.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like this feud could have been so much better than it was.
Should have been so much better.
In terms of the matches, I always thought the build-up they did.
Yeah,
like
build up to this match was awesome.
Yeah, like
so much fun.
The non-wrestling matches were great. It was the matches where I was just like, oh, all right, cool. It's a shame because these two are great. I love these two. I think they would have a kick-ass match if they got the chance to, but crappy finishes 3 straight times now. First one, Roman costing Brock. Second time, Brock getting pinning Bobby with his shoulders down unexpectedly, and then low blow Kingdom over here. And now Bray Wyatt's in the picture. It's like, okay, sure. All right. Is it going to be these two versus Uncle Howdy? Like, is that where we're going?
Oh my God.
And Bray? Like, that'd be pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, to me, it was like Brock was like, oh, wait, what? Whoever wins this match gets Bray? how do I lose this match without getting pinned? That it seemed like that was
Yeah.
like the thing. I don't know. Maybe reading a little bit too much into that, but for what it was, I always love these guys when they hit,
Yeah.
because moves just hit differently with these two guys because they're so giant, they're so athletic.
Mhm.
They're so the realism in their, because they've also fought in the past, so that realism
Right.
is there. But yeah, just I was so bothered with that finish, and I had some friends who are more of the casual fan, and they were just like, "God, that sucked," and I was like, "Okay, so it's not just the hardcore fan who thinks that a finish like that
Yeah.
sucks." So all right, and then let's talk about the last match here, or which would have been the first match, which was the women's elimination chamber match. And here's my other criticism with this match, as I was saying that, when you have 6 number 1 contenders, you really have no number 1 contenders, and I don't like filling out the match to fill it out. Like, if you have 6 women who are, like, all
Yeah.
viable, let's go. Like, let's make that match important. That's the other reason why I don't really like the Elimination Chamber. I felt, and I think everybody felt, there was one person who was going to win this match and who should be a contender, and that was
Yep.
Asuka. That being said, I thought the match was well booked. Nobody was put into a position where they couldn't do what they were asked to do. Carmella was surprisingly like super charismatic, and I really enjoyed her. And I don't normally say that when I watch her wrestling, but this was really to get Asuka ready for Bianca. I thought they did a good job. I didn't necessarily like the way that Raquel lost, but
Yeah.
other than that, like, I thought this was exactly what I would have wanted it to be, and completely fine.
Yeah. This match highlighted a lot to me how little of that like great NXT women's division has actually made it from 2 or 3 years ago. Because I was like watching this, I was like, well, okay, Bianca and Rhea are already in title matches, and then I'm looking at this and I'm like, huh, okay, underwhelming. I'm just happy the right person won.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Liv Morgan did something cool, good for her. But I had a tough time being interested in 5 of the 6 because they don't give me a reason to
Yeah.
on television. Like Natalia,
She's got
come
her
on.
ass kicked.
Yeah, that's about
She-
all she's good for. Yeah,
Shayna
she
and
just
Ronda,
got her.
Shayna and Ronda
Exactly.
were like, "Hey, we're just going to beat you up here." So that's your road to Elimination Chamber right there,
Yeah,
lady.
and Nikki Cross like is creepy. That's her whole thing.
I
And
forget who it was. Was it Cole or Graves who said that they referred to her as nuts, and she liked it so much she thought about changing her name, or that being her nick, or they said something
that
stupid like
sounds like
that
a
in the
Corey
commentary.
Graves thing.
Yeah, yeah. She liked being called nuts, whatever. But Asuka, I feel like, Asuka's been around for a long time.
She has that, yeah.
Um, and she was able to remake the character a little bit at the Royal Rumble, and she feels fresh again. And kudos to her, because it's like the hardest thing to do in wrestling is to create the longevity so that you can feel fresh,
Yeah,
again. So kudos to her. I think that match will be really good. I hope they give it the time. I hope the thing about it is Charlotte and Rhea feels bigger, and it
for sure.
probably should feel bigger because Rhea hasn't won that title yet.
Yeah,
But let's not sleep on Bianca and Asuka. I think that might even be technically the better match, even if it's not
mhm.
the bigger match, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so as we go forward to Raw and SmackDown this week, I will have we'll do more. We're gonna do this show pretty much every weekend until we get there. But excitement level for you, pre Elimination Chamber and post Elimination Chamber. Do you feel the same about WrestleMania? Do you feel a little less excited, a little more excited? Where do you feel? Because that's what this show was. This show is really like the pre-show to WrestleMania with all the angles, and they'll tell more stuff on TV, but that's the goal of this show, is to really prep us for WrestleMania and get excited for it.
I'm sure with the Sami Zayn stuff, most people say the other, but I actually am more excited for the show overall. I think it's maybe the addition of Bianca and Asuka, the confirmation of Seth and Logan Paul, which intrigues me. I think Roman and Cody will have a great main event, and I'm interested to see how they figure out this tag title stuff because after after the Elimination Chamber, I was like, I have no idea how we're supposed to get to that match, other than Sammy and Kevin might be friends again. Um, so yeah, if it was a scale of 1 to 10, I'd be like 7.5 excitement, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
And as we get closer, it'll go higher and higher because that's how WrestleMania works.
I think an underrated thing about kind of getting people excited is just that the shows have been generally good. I think,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I thought the Royal Rumble was a little long in the tooth for me because of those 2 long Rumble matches, but, if you go back to post WrestleMania of last year, yeah, there's some shows that maybe weren't as good as folks hoped, but there were some really good moments to excite you. There was the idea, WWE Network and post WWE Network before Peacock was like, do I really need to watch this WWE show, right? I could watch
Yeah.
it in the morning. I could watch it tomorrow. No big deal. I'm not going to miss anything. But I feel like since WrestleMania of last year until now, even someone who's not really a hardcore WWE fan, because of the conversation by WWE fans happening around these shows, you kind of want to check in because you don't want to miss out, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to miss something cool that happens. And I think that's been a big boon for WWE of late is stuff has been happening. Like people are caring about, some of these finishes. People really cared about Cody in Hell in the Cell with Seth last year. How is this guy going to gut this match out? And so I think they've done a decent enough job with that. Not these shows aren't all, killers, but they're also the way that they're weaving in the TV, like these big shows have to mean something for TV at the same time because
Right.
that's where they tell their story. So, all right, we are not going to get out of here before talking about the Battle in the Valley show and specifically about this lady here. Now, this photo, for those watching on video, this is JJ Williams, who does a lot of social stuff for Wrestling Observer. He had a camera that he rented and he jumped on a flight and I got to spend some time with him this week. But he turned this photo around from taking the photo, uploading it to his phone. I feel like it was like 5 minutes and he had this photo up on his Twitter. So check out JJ's stuff. And for you content creators, if you do end up using it, just give the man some credit, give him a little bit of credit in the tweet or on the
I did
photo.
today on a simple tweet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is JJ. So, okay. Sasha Mercedes is a giant deal because you cover Stardom, right?
I do.
She with Mercedes coming in, there was a lot of pressure for her to make sure that this match with Kyrie was I almost feel like there was more pressure than necessary because of how she came in, but there was some weird pressure that if this match was not 4.5 stars, people were going to be disappointed. I was like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy. So she and Kyrie go out there last night, and I was there in person, and they put on a banger, like absolutely a banger. And if somebody said, I think the consensus in the building was that it was better than Okada and Tanahashi, and some wrestling fans will say, well, technically this, and this was like just based on the like if you can actually do better than Okada and Tanahashi, or even be comparable, like what a friggin' win. What did you think about that match last night?
I thought it was perfect. Like there was for someone that's as locked into the Joshi side of this all and the AEW side even, there is a lot of people that hate or want to see Mercedes Moné fail. It's crazy to me.
There was
Maybe it's
one guy in the crowd who was catcalling her pretty much all night, and people were audibly telling him to shut the F up.
oh, he's lucky Bailey didn't beat him up. Um,
And she was
but
there. I saw a
yeah,
photo of her.
she was there. She was actually on the stream when she was somehow managed to go from the top level down to the floor by the time Mercedes walked out of the arena the first time. Because I saw her, they like high-fived on the way out. But I thought this match was perfect. Like I don't just toss perfect around, but Mercedes Moné had a lot to prove. She had a lot of doubters. She's on these interviews saying Stardom wrestlers' names wrong, and I think that was purposely. I don't think she's like clueless or anything. I think
Right.
she's doing that on point. Like she's saying Julian instead of Julia, and uh AMZ instead of Azumi. Like she's saying all these things specifically, and I'm watching it. I'm like, and then I watched that documentary that she
Yeah.
posted the night before, which was fantastic. People need to check that out. It's only like 20 minutes. And I was like, not only are people going to learn how much this actually means to her, but they're going to see that she is as good as she was, 8, 9 months ago. Like that didn't go away. And from the entrance alone, paying respect to Hana Kimura, which I think is when everyone on the at least the Joshi side was like, oh, like they just were like stunned because no one saw that coming. Of course,
Yeah.
Hana Kimura passed away in 2020. And she makes her entrance down to the ring. She felt like the biggest star on the show. On a show that maybe Kazuchika Okada is maybe the only other person that felt like a bigger star. And that's just because of the Okada way. And people in the US don't get to see Okada all that much. But they went out there, they had a killer match, and I still think the right result was Mercedes winning because her as the face of this IWGP Women's title for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year is better than none at all, truthfully. Like, because and this match, which went nearly 28 minutes, by the way, it was like the perfect, like, okay, we messed up at Wrestle Kingdom. They got 5 minutes. Kyrie and Tam got 5 minutes of in-ring action. Here's 28, and not only that, they're in the discussion at the very least of having the better match over an Okada and Tanahashi. I said it this week. What happens when you bet against Mercedes Moné and put her in a semifinal match rather than the main event? Brooklyn, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, she delivers, and that's what she did once again.
So here's a question for you, which is, and so I said this even before the match started. Entrance comes out, she's got dancers, beat drops, she comes out, and I was like, how did Tony Khan not back up the Brinks trucks?
It's so true.
And we don't know all of the negotiation. There was a negotiation, I believe, and whatever happened. But what we saw last night is what AEW's women's division needs. Yep. Jamie Hayter is probably the best representation right now as far as being the total package.
Yep.
Britt, obviously, from a personality standpoint, from the in-ring, she doesn't have that quite yet. Toni Storm, I feel, was going to be a little bit more of that total package. She hasn't hit as well as I thought she was going to hit. And Ruby has been okay, but she hasn't become the star that they wanted. And Jade is still, probably another year or two away from actually being a good wrestler.
Yeah.
And I watched Mercedes, and I was like, oh my God, how did we swing and miss with this one? Who knows if she would have? I don't think she would have taken whatever the stipulations in the contract that Tony would have wanted to invest in her. But still, like, geez, this is exactly what they need. Yeah. And it was just so apparent to me from the entrance. This was even before the match that I thought was great too. So, I just wish it would have been on a little bit of a bigger stage in a better building not on a random Fight TV pay-per-view. Like, this should have been like big time. And I think some people missed out on that opportunity because this was amazing.
Yeah, I boldly claimed once upon a time that she would be the CM Punk version for the women's division if they brought her in. In
Speaking
that,
of, who was also in the building last night,
yes, he was there to
you know that he and
confirm what I
he and Meltzer were like a row away and maybe like 4 or 5 seats away from each other, and I don't think that they had a conversation from what I understand. So I don't know what was that. Maybe they did later, but
interesting.
from when I saw Punk, I don't think that they had
Interesting.
so interesting. Yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
But on the AEW part, I always thought she was that game-changing free agent for the women's division that they hadn't had yet. Sure, Tony was great. You could have your thoughts about Saraya however you please. I didn't think she was a game changer. She was a name, but I
Yeah,
didn't think she was a game changer. Mercedes Monet she changes everything.
yeah,
Star power and never did I think that Bushi Road was going to be more willing to back up the Brinks truck than Tony Khan for Mercedes Monet, but that is what has happened, and we're better for it. And I agree with you. Obviously, I wish this was her debut match was at a bigger arena, at a you know uh, Staples Center or something like that. They're never
yeah,
gonna run that, but you know what I mean,
yeah.
or a Tokyo Dome or a
Sure.
Osaka Joe Hall in Japan. But her and Kyrie did that match almost did feel out of place a little bit.
Yeah,
I saw a few of you talking about that in the chat earlier. It's like they felt so big, the match itself, that it's like, oh, this is like bigger than this building, and maybe that's New Japan not knowing how they are in the U.S. right now because of their strong tapings, right? Because those weren't always doing big buildings, but I think they are trying to grasp how big Mercedes is, and I think had you announced Mercedes and Kyrie before time at a bigger venue, as well as Okada and Tanahashi, not a week in advance, you could have sold an even bigger building, no question about it.
absolutely. I was saying that at the very least they needed to run the San Jose State Event Center, which is where the famous NXT show before WrestleMania 31 was at, because that's at least double the size
Yeah,
and it's a much better building for TV. I guarantee you they would not have had the technological issues that they did have.
yeah.
WWE ran there, so maybe they couldn't get the building. I don't know. I don't know how all that stuff works, but that's my choice. And every time they run this Civic, I'm just like, there's a better building. Why do we keep running the Civic?
I hope they move on up next time.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
should know
hopefully.
that by now.
Hopefully. All right. So I want to thank you, Scott, for jumping on. I know it's a
Thank you.
Sunday afternoon, early evening for you, and I'm gonna get ready to watch the NBA All-Star Game, which I always watch. I've watched it since I was a kid, so I'm excited to watch that. But after it was such a busy weekend, cap it off, and then for a lot of folks, don't have work on Monday, so that's a nice little thing. So hopefully, people get to kind of relax and chill out and have a good rest of their weekend. But Scott, tell me about the 5-Star Network here and what's in the pipeline for you.
Yeah, I mean, if to start with the 5-Star Network, it's something really cool that I have put together, kind of just trying to showcase all of wrestling. I think a lot of websites have a great grasp on the likes of a WWE and AEW. So my whole goal is to let really passionate people talk about the niche side of wrestling, whether it be in Japan or even the indies or even the British scene, something like that. And you can check that out at 5starnetwork.co. You can also this week on the Fight Game Media Network on the free feed on Monday, you can check out my Stardom guide for 2023. Catches you all up on the world of Stardom, which is something I did last year. I was just trying to time it right because there was just so much going on in wrestling, let alone Stardom, that I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I thought the closer to the Mercedes match, that's going to be hopefully when people want to get into it. So definitely check that out. They'll be on the free feed on Monday. And please always check out the 5-Star Joshi show because that's where I am every single week on the Fight Game Media Network and the Patreon.
Yeah. So what we usually do with Scott's show is he does the show for the Patreon, and we put that up Thursday-ish time frame. And then what we do is we take the Stardom piece and we put it in the free feed. And so if you don't want to subscribe to the Patreon, you could still hear Scott's Stardom stuff. But this week he recorded a show exclusively for the Patreon, and then he's recording a second show, which is the sort of the guide to Stardom for folks who are, kind of peaked. The interest is peaked there. Like, how do I get into it more? Like, what do I need to know about the feuds? What do I need to know about how to watch this thing? So that's that's what Scott's doing, and that will be up on Monday in the free feed. So all right, Scott, thanks again. Thanks to everybody who checked in with us on this Sunday afternoon. So for Scott, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.